Massive partner in brief of ongoing progress work on the shutdown of Lagos Infra
bring all the traffic into this direction.
We are going to work to ensure that it's better during the traffic. If we don't do what we need to do now, the road will.
Good day and welcome to another interesting episode of your program, Infrastructure Weekly. On today's program, we'll be taking you around the achievement of the Buhari administration in bridging the nation's infrastructure deficit. I am Abosade Omowuyi. Join us after this break.
Coming together of opportunities. This is what
Infrastructure is the backbone of development, which explains the Buhari government's effort at bridging the facility gap. Infrastructure Weekly is a television package designed to bring you latest information on hundreds of development projects going on in various sectors all over the nation.
there is no state in Nigeria today where you will not see our contractors busy at work.
Power generation, rural electrification, road rehabilitations, national housing scheme, construction of roads and rail lines across the country, you name it.
We are now able to produce 7,000 megawatt of power. That is no longer debatable.
Infrastructure Weekly is Nigerians working together for a better Nigeria. So be better informed to take better informed decisions. Watch Infrastructure Weekly, showing on Channels Television, Thursdays 2:30 p.m., NTA Network Wednesdays 5 p.m., and QTV News Fridays at 8 p.m. Infrastructure Weekly, making development known.
Thanks for staying tuned. We'll begin today's episode of the program from the housing sector, where the federal government has once again reiterated its determination to provide affordable houses for all Nigerians. Minister of State 2 for the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing, Suleiman Zarama, who was speaking in Abuja, said the government will provide houses for all Nigerians to meet contemporary challenges.
The pressure of urbanization and demography is increasing. There is need for multi-level structures to reduce cost of land and infrastructure facilities, land acquisition problems, and the housing deficit.
This is something that government in itself will want to see dealt with. Government alone cannot get this done. And that is why I was so very happy when I learned about this conference today and the fact that we have experts gathered here.
The Abuja International Housing Show has been painstakingly nurtured for these 12 years by the organizers to bring to the fore the need for all stakeholders in the housing sector to key into in order to achieve adequate and affordable housing. The continuous participation of the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing is an indication of the relevance of the objectives of the Abuja Housing Show to the core mandate of the ministry.
Representative of Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, and the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, urges key industry players in the housing sector to embark on the provision of affordable alternative housing projects to meet the needs of low-income earners in Nigeria. While addressing the theme, driving growth and sustainability in Nigeria's housing and mortgage market, improving structures and policies for impact, during the 12th edition of the Abuja International Housing Conference, they say the event is coming at a time when housing deficit figures are questionable.
Why are so many houses in Abuja empty? And yet we say there is no housing. So I'm hoping that perhaps in the course of your deliberations in this conference, the Abuja Housing Show, that you will need to look at some of these issues. There are so many houses, so many built up, and yet no one is occupying them.
In an effort to make housing available for all, the Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing has expanded accessibility and affordability that will guarantee sustainable access to houses of decent living standards.
There's a contradiction in having 17 million housing deficits with hundreds of available unoccupied houses within the country. However, the income of the masses is so low that they can barely afford to subscribe to a mortgage plan from financial institutions. The President, Muhammadu Buhari-led federal government, in contributing its quota, is creating an enabling environment for the full participation of stakeholders in the private sector through restructuring of Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria to provide shelter for millions of Nigerians.
The Muhammadu Buhari administration's policy thrust on housing is geared towards making quality lifestyle a way of life for the average Nigerian through the creation of a sustainable access to decent, safe, qualitative and affordable houses for the low and middle income earners. The Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing, being a valuable partner in the Abuja Housing Show, has with open hands accepted to accommodate and avail herself of the inputs and commitments of the show to driving government housing policy.
The massive training of construction industry artisans across the country through the Office of Vice President has produced a lot of graduates, a lot of artisans with the relevant skills and competency that will drive our real estate sector.
Affordable and acceptable housing will soon come to play as stakeholders call on builders to ensure they adhere to the directive by federal government and local content, adding the building materials should be sourced locally in order to boost our economy as well as create jobs for the unemployed. Speaking on behalf of the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, the Minister of State too, Suleiman Zama, says the ministry is committed to delivering affordable houses.
It is our aim to make the housing sector very vibrant by creating numerous jobs for laborers, artisans, craftsmen, engineers, building material manufacturers, material suppliers and other vendors, thereby contributing to an increase in the GDP.
These things are already here on ground. You may have to travel to Lagos or Ibadan or Port Harcourt to look for some things, but even in Abuja here, there are so many industries, and really the quality of what is on the market is as good as anywhere in the world.
We've already started a strategy of implementation of the Executive Order 5 of the President Buhari, in ensuring that Nigerian content is very visible in housing delivery.
The policy of the Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing on affordable housing is to provide access to mortgage finance and at a single-digit interest rate through strengthening the mortgage finance sector. However, the Abuja International Housing Conference organizing team led by Festus Adebayo, in recognizing the efforts of the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing, presented an award to His Excellency Babatunde Fashola as Best Performing Minister of the Ministry in recent years, with a certificate attached which was received by Mr. Suleiman Zama.
Moving on from there, the federal government says it will continue to work to deliver world-class projects to all Nigerians. Transport Secretary to the Federal Capital Territory Administration, Kayode Okpeifa, disclosed this while speaking on the operations of the Abuja Light Rail and how FCT residents have accepted the service.
The Abuja Light Rail project was awarded in 2007 and its construction flagged off in 2009. Has 6 lots, with Lot 1A and 3 commissioned for operation by President Muhammadu Buhari recently. The project, according to the FCTA Transport Secretary, has been well equipped with good maintenance system such as a washing bay, mini operation room at all the 12 stations, quality water and unadulterated diesel for the running of the train.
Abuja is one of the lines. It will come up, all these things depends on resources, revenue, taxes paid by citizens. I know you don't want us to take too much loan, so we're also conscious of debt to GDP ratio and the rest. But I know one thing, a lot 1B is on. A lot 1B has been awarded. And the idea is we want people to come in and take it on. So there are a lot of study. We just lot what Plus 6, we are currently come to the last part of the conceptual design, and it's going to council very soon.
Okpefa and the resident engineer also highlighted the locations of the 12 stations and the comparative advantages they offer the respective people where they are located, adding that construction on the phase 2 would soon commence, connecting Kubwa, Kuje, amongst others, for easy transportation for commuters.
Bazango, Deide, Kargini 1, Kargini 2, Kubwa 1, Kubwa 2, Basanjiwa, you have Deide, you have Guagua, and you have airport, you have metro, you have Idu, you have national park, you have stadium, among, I think I mentioned almost all. And if you notice, they're all, majority of them are in the rural part. And they are to bring people from those places to work, bring them to their jobs, and bring them to prosperity. One at the airport is to bring people from the airport. They might be tourists, they might be businessmen, they may be local or international people. So it's to improve international trade, improve local trade, improve tourism, and then from metro to other parts of those places, it's also some businessmen, some farmers also want to get to town. So by and large, it's to improve the standard of living, it's to create jobs, not just jobs, create wealth. Along the corridor, the locals, the people living there, the businesses, you can see it's along the Idu Industrial Park. It's also along the Tech Park. So workers in these areas can have trade access.
For the first time in Africa, we've been able to integrate the metro rail line with the air travel passengers together, and then road, and then the regional rail all together. We left Idu. That is where we have the regional rail. And Idu is side by side our line, the metro. So the integration we have between the airport and Idu station is complete. If you are going to Kaduna out of town, this is the line. If you are traveling abroad, this is the line. If you want to travel by road, this is the line. Now, there's also an important thing I want to mention. People have been saying that with this, we are going to chase out the taxi drivers here out of business. That is not true.
Some of the commuters commended the efforts of the administration and note that there is need for improvement, especially on security and facilities, saying that the light rail project should also be replicated in all the states of the Federation for easy movement of Nigerians within their respective states and across them.
A lot of things have been saved. Accident rates on the road, you are reducing the population of vehicles on the road. I find that very interesting also that I just come now, I'm linking up to the airport, and so be it. Also those coming from airport linking up to town and to maybe other towns. Is going to resolve a lot of problems, the security problems on the road, the exposures. It is very comfortable. What I see is this need for extending this type of facility to other parts of the city and possibly to other parts of the country.
It's a great change. So this is our system, this shows that our system started working. This is what we are seeing in developed countries. I could remember when I went to course for Dubai, as you know, using their metro. I wish my country would be like this. And this is what we are seeing. We start seeing things changing. This is great. It's safe, convenient. As you see, everybody is happy. You know, we are just praying that this country, as in praying to God Almighty that as in our president should continue like this.
Train was a very fun experience for me. And I would like to see more, I would like to have more encounters in more trains. And this particular train I entered is spacious, and even though you have walls and boundaries, you feel like you're still one.
My experience about the train was wonderful, it was whelming, and I hope for more of this.
The road will
Now to the power sector, where the federal government says its directive to the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission is to legal entities in the sector to step up their game and ensure that Nigerians get the benefits that development in the sector should bring to them. Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, disclosed this while speaking in Abuja. The minister said the directive is meant to ensure that entities fulfill the obligations to Nigerians and abide by the law. Let's take a listen to what the minister has to say on the sector.
The Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, had briefed journalists on the status of Nigeria's power sector at the headquarters of the Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing in Abuja in order to fashion out ways to improving the delivery of power supply to the Nigerian populace.
This is not a time to trade blames because there is enough blame to go around. For me, it is a time to reiterate everybody's responsibility and urge all of us to brace up, to do what we are obliged to do, which is to serve the people. I suspect that these facts may appear like a red flag to the bulls of anti-privatization, but I remain convinced that privatization is the way forward. Privatization has brought us better value in broadcasting, it has brought us better value in newspapers, in telecoms, and in banking, and other sectors of our national life, and I remain convinced that it will deliver in power.
During the press briefing on the state of play in the power sector, he refers copiously to the provision of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act, which is the law that regulates the power sector, regulating it to effective ways to boosting the distribution network in order to improve service delivery to the people of Nigeria.
The law does not make it mandatory for any Nigerian to receive power only from the disco or to use only public power. That is why it is not an offense for Nigerians to buy generators, to buy inverters or solar systems, which are of course more expensive than the power which Embed buys from the gencos and invests in the discos to distribute to consumers. Therefore, in answer to the question of who to turn to when you have no meter, when you have no supply of power, or your transformer is bad, it is the discos who are your service providers that you should turn to. They are the ones who bill you and collect money from you. I must of course point out that from time to time there are failures in the system, such as gas pipeline failures or transmission failures. That is not the fault of the discos. But any fair-minded observer will admit that this does not happen every day. And this has nothing to do with the supply of meters or the proliferation of estimated bills.
The President Muhammadu Buhari administration has intervened with various funding initiatives in the three key areas of power, namely generation, transmission, and distribution.
As facilitator of business and enabler of private sector, government has done the following. First, through the Central Bank of Nigeria, government made available the sum of 213 billion naira to the power sector at concessionary interest rate below market rate to gencos and discos. Government has committed to invest 72 billion naira for procurement of equipment and installation to help get to 2,000 megawatts to consumers. And this process has been advertised with encouraging responses from original equipment manufacturers which are being evaluated.
Fashola directs NERC to ensure that the discos improve on their distribution of equipment and capacity to take up the available 2,000 megawatts in order to optimize the use of electrical resources produced by the gencos. He also mandated NERC to enforce the contract of the view to apply meters and act to ensure the speedy installation of meters with a view to eliminate estimated billings and promote efficient industry and market structure.
Government has not left the supply solely to the discos. Government at federal, state and local government and former employees of PHCN hold 40% of the shares in the discos. In addition, government is responsible for regulating the behavior and compliance through the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC. It is necessary to direct NERC to step in to do the following. A. Ensure that the discos improve on their distribution equipment and capacity to take up the available 2,000 megawatts in order to optimize the use of electrical resource produced by the GENCOs, and I direct NERC to immediately act in this regard. Enforce the contract of the discos to supply meters and act to ensure the urgent, speedy supply and installation of meters with a view to eliminating estimated billing and promote efficient industry and market structures.
The Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, discloses that the executive arm of government would, in collaboration with the federal legislatures, push to end the practice of estimated billings of consumers in Nigeria.
The GENCOs are undertaking various repairs, rehabilitation, and expansion that will bring on incremental power. Transmission has also increased from an average of 5,000 megawatts in 2015 to 7,124 megawatts approximately in December 2017. This will give an average annual increase of about 1,062 megawatts per annum in transmission capacity. TCN currently has about 90 transmission projects in various stages of construction, and many of them are scheduled to be completed this year. So we can transport what the GENCO generate, and there's a transmission expansion plan from 2018 to 2028, which government is committed to implement. With regards to distribution, this has also improved from 2,690 megawatts approximately in 2015 to a peak distribution of 5,222 megawatts in 2018, averaging an increase of about 844 megawatts per annum, because the discos have also done some work.
It is important to note that for the past 20 months in all its public briefings at monthly meetings with the discos, these same issues of service delivery of meters, estimated billings, investment in distribution equipment by discos have dominated his remarks. In spite of the reservations by the discos over the way forward, the minister is optimistic that the power sector and nation at large would prosper.
You can join the conversation of the program by following it and tweeting to us at infra_weekly, and by visiting our Facebook page at facebook.com/infrastructureweekly. Join us after this break as we hit the home stretch with the road sector. Don't go away.
Coming together of opportunities, and this is what
infrastructure is the backbone of development, which explains the Buhari government's effort at bridging the facility gap. Infrastructure Weekly is a television package designed to bring you latest information on hundreds of development projects going on in various sectors all over the nation.
There is no state in Nigeria today where you will not see our contractors busy at work.
Power generation, rural electrification, road rehabilitations, national housing scheme, construction of roads and rail lines across the country, you name it.
We are now able to produce 7,000 megawatts of power. That is no longer debatable.
Infrastructure Weekly is Nigerians working together for a better Nigeria. So be better informed to take better informed decisions. Watch Infrastructure Weekly, showing on Channels Television Thursdays 2:30 p.m., NTA Network Wednesdays 5 p.m., and QoTV News Fridays at 8 p.m. Infrastructure Weekly, making development known.
Some residents of Lagos have commended the federal government over the planned closure of the third mainland bridge for observation. They say the decision shows that the government is planning ahead and is safety conscious. They also called for the planned 3-day closure to be done in a way that will not disrupt everyday activities.
The Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, while addressing the stories making the rounds about the nation's longest bridge, said the bridge will only be closed for 3 days in the first instance. He added that this will enable the government to ascertain its present state before embarking on for 27 months. For Lagosians who use the bridge for their day-to-day activities, the decision is good as long as it is well planned and will not lead to disruptions.
It's good to repair it. Very, very nice. It's something that
should have been done even before now. But then they should provide alternative routes that will be able to alleviate the stress that will be involved during that period of time. Because closing it will mean causing more movement obstruction to movement.
For Vincent Dominic, his worry is what happened some years back with the reported maintenance of the bridge and what has changed. He has for you federal governments to provide alternatives to reduce pressure and inconvenience for users of the bridge.
Initially, I'd say it was almost either 2 months, 2 years or 2 years and a half that the third mainland bridge go through an innovation. If they say they are going to reclose it, and we don't have any other alternative, the other roads that we are going to have alternative to the highland, those who are living in the mainland, the Ikorodu, another exit. If they are going to come down to the highland, if the third mainland bridge is closed, there's going to be a lot of pressure.
The bridge will be closed for observation between the 24th and 26th of August.
That does it for this week's episode of the program Infrastructure Weekly. We'll be back again next week for another interesting episode. Until then, be a good citizen and continue to pay your tax and take ownership of all public utilities. Let's continue the conversation on social media. I am Abosede Omowuyi. Bye for now.
Bring all the traffic into this direction.